I'm loud and clear, and I understand this is the very first session after your lunch. So I'll try to keep exciting this session so along with my panelists. So as an introduction, so myself Vinit Mishra, I am partner ENY and I work around clean energy. So from my panelist standpoint, Sophia, she is a MD in BP and she is very instrumental in terms of venturing deals in clean energy area and the advanced mobility space. Sophia has done her master's from Warwick University. She also done her BSc Physiology in fact, I am sorry, I forgot your institution name, but it is not the least. So she has done her LLB also. Okay. Moving to next, Mariarosa, you can see clearly that she is having a vast experience along this panel. So Mariarosa started her career from 1990 when this energy transition story even could not fold it out. She was quite instrumental in terms of setting up first vehicle for LNG and CNG standpoint. And Mariarosa is also is president of NGV. So NGV is the Italian association which is taking care of gas mobility market and representing 70% market from Italy. Our next elite panelist, if I'm not wrong, sorry, my bad. Anil is there, so sorry. Order, I just forgot the order. So Anil is part of Seros. He is MD and CEO Seros. So Seros is working in logistic space. They are working in shipping space. They are also exploration also. And Anil was part of this complete journey since beginning. He was part of Adani Group. He was quite instrumental in setting up Adani Mundra plant and Wilmar also. He's been part of, in fact, Anil, my bad, so, yeah, SR Group. SR Group. So Anil been part of SR Group and worked with the directly chairman as a senior vice president. And last but not the least, Arun is there. So Arun, my only point, Arun has set up his own venture, Race Energy, and which is working in battery swapping stage. So battery swapping, he also received 40 under 40 awards from our Honorable Minister, Mr. Nitin Gadkari. Anil, sorry, I just want to know one question out of my curiosity. What was the reason you kept your organization name is Race? I know you are motor evangelist. You like to see those kind of things. Is the only reason that you kept the name is Race?
Something like that. I've been from a very young age associated with motor racing, building race cars and everything. And I think it fell into place when we wanted to sort of raise the acceleration of like electric vehicle adoption. So it kind of like felt the right thing and something catchy, and I think it is catchy because you're asking the questions about it. So yeah, that was it. Those were the reasons. Not anything serious about it.
Perfect. So we can't have better panel than this. We have startups, CEOs here, co-founder here. We have venture capitalists also who are putting money in this market. We are having a regulator or kind of a NGV kind of organization which have policy, which have quite significant intervention in policy designing. So my first, what I would like to do that I would like to hear from all of you, at least your initial thought and around this energy transition story which is happening in India and globally. So over to you, Sophia.
Thank you very much, and great to be in this panel. So BP Ventures invest around the world in visionary founders and on innovative technologies that are helping to accelerate the energy transition. BP had made a declaration to reimagine energy for people and the planet and become net zero by 2050. It made that pledge in 2020, and virtually all of our funding for investment is in the areas of electric mobility, clean energy, new energy vectors, renewables, power, hydrogen, and also even disruptive areas which we haven't even imagined yet. And I suspect some of it will be developed in India over the next few years. So as far, I mean, I think people may have seen me around. I am, for the last 2 or 3 years, I've spent a lot of time in India, partly to meet with what I think is some of the world's best, most innovative companies, which are really disrupting the energy transition and doing it in a very capital efficient way, as you would in India, because it's not the US, it's not Silicon Valley, it's not these areas where you would expect to have a lot of cash, and doing it in a very humble way as well, but also in a much more collaborative way. What I see in terms of energy transition, of course, India has made commitments to net zero. BP, of course, is part of this journey, helping to accelerate the energy transition. And as part of our venture capital commitment, we are clearly focused in India on investing. And it's an area which I suspect you will see more and more, not just venture capital, but private equity, pour in over the next few years. And irrespective of what's happening in the capital markets, my belief, and I was talking to Arun earlier, when I've seen Race Energy a couple of years ago, and I'm really impressed with what he's developing. And I've kind of like consoled him or given him a little bit of comfort that the market here is growing very strongly.
Thank you. Thank you, Sophia. Maria, over to you.
Thank you. I appreciate to be here. It's the second time that I come for the India Energy Week, and I see that also this year it's a big success. So let's go for the third year. I don't know where, but I will be there for sure. So what I wanted to say that, well, before you just mentioned I'm president of NGV Italy, and I'm president also of the World Gas Council Mobility. That means that my experience with alternative fuel goes back a long time ago, and I really started at that time. The companies that now they are leader in some of the field also here in India with their technology, they were startups, and they grow up very fast and so on. What Italy, it's really the cradle of startups in the energy sectors, because it is the chance to start a startup. It's the chance to capture expertise and intelligence of people working for big companies maybe, and where the energy was not yet a primary subject. So startups means high technology experts, most of the time coming from big companies. They are dedicated to their job, to the research, and what makes a startup very compelling, very important in this field now is that their work is very lean, is very agile, and that's something that big companies don't have. That's why big companies are looking for this kind of intelligence, of this kind of technological expertise. So I think that what the startups need now, it's money. Most of them have no money, and that's one of the tasks I have. They keep asking me, find some stakeholders interested in our technology so that we can go on. That's the problem of startup, because big, intelligent, high technology expert, and but most of the time it's very difficult to fight against bureaucracy, and also to enter markets that are not known by them. We usually talk about small companies, few people, but my experience is that they are extremely important because they can bring that part of DNA to a big company where they need something faster, something localized, mentally localized on what they're doing. And the energy field is, of course, the best area now where this expertise can flourish. So I think that luckily investors more and more, they are looking for to invest in something clean. Let's say clean, it's a fashion, but clean, it's also a necessity. If you want to be successful, to sell anything you sell, you have to say, I'm clean. So that's a good chance for startup to find investors. We need intelligent investors that can identify the need to have these young startups with lots of expertise and intelligence. So I know many of them, also in India. My friend, one of my friends is here. He started a few years ago with a startup, and now is a successful businessman. So I wish that many startups can reach what they really want. And myself, with my people, and my startups in Europe and in Italy are ready to share with the Indian entrepreneur our knowledge in all the field of clean energy, because we go from electricity, but more and more we go for biomethane, we go for hydrogen, we go for biofuels, because, for example, Italy has made the choice, just like your country, to go for a pragmatic transition, not an ideological transition. So we have to be neutral and look at different sources and use it where it's more practical, economically, and to be shared with. Thank you for the moment.
Thanks, Maria. My bad, I could not hear you completely. But you need to, next time you need to speak a bit closer. My bad. So over to my next friend, Ashish, your views.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks, Vinit. Post-lunch, like you said, always difficult. But it's very, very, it's my pleasure actually to be on this panel with such distinguished and diversified, Sophia is there and Mariarosa, and we have Arun. So I think we have very diversified views, and it'll help us to really understand. I think we are going through very exciting time in India. The India Energy Week, really the second edition here comes at the right time where today, the entire economy is firing. And any growing economy is a guzzler of energy, And, with the healthy growth forecast for the coming decade, there are amazing opportunities, I would say, for the youth of this country to, get into so many problem solving and thereby create very, very interesting startups in this space. And I will today speak from our experience at Seros. Seros has been at the forefront of creating some very interesting business models in energy transition. And it'll be my pleasure to, share it with the audience and also talk from our experience about the challenges we faced and how we overcome them. What are the other opportunities for other, entrepreneurs looking at opportunities arising out of this energy transition, and also the increasing energy consumption in India. Seros is also, other than the, for the audience, Seros is the category or industry creator of green logistics in India. We incubated India's first and only green logistics company much before, the EVs, etc., became a, sort of buzzword. We have now recently incubated another startup over the last 1 year. I think this is our second edition we are present, which is in the energy space, and we are trying to dabble with clean energy, bringing efficiency, creating some amazing homegrown, capabilities to harness the energy potential in India. So I think overall, if you sum it up, it's exciting time, and Arun is here, so we have first-hand experience of hearing from him on the mobility side. Sophia has financed, a couple of ventures in India, including, I think, Blue Smart is one of the ventures which a lot of people here know about, Magenta, and likewise with Maria's experience, coming from Italy, how she's seeing it being replicated in India, in the Indian ecosystem, how she's seen the transition happen would be really, really interesting. So thank you, Vinit.
Thanks, Ashish. Thanks. Arun, over to you.
Thanks, Vinit. Thanks. Thanks, Ashish, for those words. And it's really grateful to be here along with you guys on this panel. Regarding your question, Vinit, I think it's super exciting times for us to be here as young entrepreneurs. I think the whole mobility space in general has not seen a revolution in over a century. And I think pretty much the last time the revolution has happened was the birth of automobile itself. And around the same time when, Ford came and sort of revolutionized manufacturing. All of those were like early 1900s and late 1800s. Since then till now, I don't think like anything exciting has happened in the automotive space. And especially for a growing country like us, it provides a lot of opportunity to build exciting solutions here. While we see like US and China and Europe sort of building solutions for four-wheelers, that's where a lot of it is being developed. There are a lot of solutions here in India which are applicable for the world as well, like three-wheelers and two-wheelers especially. We are not only sort of revolutionizing those sectors into transitioning, we've already revolutionized them to transition into CNG and LPG, and now we are doing it for electric vehicles as well. And whatever solutions that we are building here, the same can be applied for plenty of countries in Africa, Latin America, South America, Southeast Asia. So India is kind of like leading the way forward with this transition, with this revolution where, these solutions can't really be built in most developed parts of the world because those markets don't exist over there. So it's super exciting to be in the middle of all of this. And I think the primary reason for us to start off immediately and pick three-wheelers and auto rickshaws as a segment was that because, such solutions didn't exist in the West or in China. And we felt like we could build something from scratch and have a strong product-led revolution happening in the sector which could be applied to the world. Yeah.
Thanks, Arun. Thanks. So, Arun, we could hear day 4 yesterday and yesterday as well that our Honorable Prime Minister already communicated that infrastructure is the sector where maximum capital infusion is coming. And within that infrastructure sector, energy is the next sector, so which is taking almost more than 50-60% pie of that 11 trillion INR investment. So that's amazing. So considering those facts and the way the clean energy transition journey is going, there are some facts, some data are available that almost $800 billion dollar investment by 2027 within startups for e-mobility standpoint. Coming to next smart grid, which is another solution for clean energy and energy transition side, almost $200 billion. And this all investment coming towards startups. Similarly, solar rooftop, already more than 100 million consumers are having solar rooftop and startup contribution is almost $10 billion. So with this kind of thing, the pace is coming, the capital is pretty much available in the market. So what are the key factors which all of you see in the market that's driving the growth for the startups? So over to you, Arun, if you want to take it up.
Yeah, I think firstly on the energy investments and everything, the grid is something that is very key. I've spoken about it multiple times. India today about produces 50% of its energy using coal, if my numbers are correct. 60%, yeah. So a lot of it is still not really clean, and we see it as like sort of a two-pronged problem. On one side, you need to clean up the whole grid, and on the other side, you need to transition the mobility to electric or cleaner fuels, because just doing either one of them is not going to solve the overall, clean energy transition problem. With that regard, I think as we sort of progress into electric vehicles, the grid really needs to sort of step up. A lot of investments need to happen in the grid because we're kind of like charging each electric vehicle with its one, whatever level 2 charger if you install it at your home or your level 3 DC chargers in your public infrastructure grids. These are going to add a lot of load onto the Indian grid, and that's going to create a lot of problems. And currently, even with like very minimal penetration in say for states like California in the US, you're already advised to kind of charge your EVs at a particular time, or cut it down, or charge it during night, and all those kind of precautionary measures are already being introduced with not much penetration happen across the US. It's majorly in California, and if you go to Texas, it's not that much over there, right? So India, like I think from day one itself, because we can clearly see that a lot of transition is going to happen into clean energy. We need to start investing into both on the grid side to kind of upgrade the grid to handle for these high power requirements. It's not about the energy that's being produced by the country, but it's about when and where it's required, the transmission of that energy, because the moment you turn on an electric vehicle charger, it demands a lot of power, and that's what the grid needs to kind of sustain. So that's where one kind of key investments need to happen and sort of upgrade the whole grid. And on the other side, we're already seeing on the electric vehicle mobility side of things, we've kind of faced this issue where we didn't go with fast charging because we saw on the ground that there were a lot of issues in terms of getting, let's say, installing a 150 kilowatt charger, or even higher than that, 350, 400 kilowatt charger is quite a challenge. It's not something that we could install it for tens and thousands of vehicles, and that's one of the reasons why we went with battery swapping as a starting point to kind of handle the whole electricity availability problem. So on the mobility side, on the infrastructure side, on the electric vehicle charging especially, I think innovative solutions are coming up. How we sort of draw the energy from the grid is also something exciting. We're building more and more efficient chargers. We're building more and more efficient AC to DC converters. So a lot of work is happening, and there's like plethora of startups building in their own technology in every single field of these areas.
Thank you. So Ashish, your views?
Yeah, actually, I want to take a step back and also give a little different perspective beyond the mobility space. So I like to approach it from two lenses, if you permit. So one, let us look at energy from a supply side, source side. So as we all know, the world today, the majority of the energy source is, fossil fuel driven. And of course, there's now a lot of buzz around this whole transition, and we are looking at beyond pure fossil fuels, the cleaner fossil fuels, which is gas, natural gas, which is LNG, and now we are, increasing trend towards renewables. We talk about solar, we talk about wind, we talk about so many others like tidal, etc., geothermal. So all of these sources. So on the supply side is one pool, and then there is the other pool on the consumption side. Consumption side largely driven by industrial consumption, commercial, residential, and of course automotive, which Arun has just talked about, largely, right? And so clearly, the way I look at it, there are two streams. One is what is existing, and how do we bring efficiency to that in terms of, like you talked about, the smart grid. So that is something which will improve what is existing, and thereby any reduction, in because of efficiency is equal to supply of that, right? So therefore, on both sides, on supply side and on consumption side, there are a lot of startups which are coming in and solving existing problems. Smart grid being one of such things, right? And there are efficiencies coming in on every front, and I see a lot of young startups coming with very, very efficient systems, and everything getting connected. For example, in conventional energy, I see a lot of IoT coming to the front. I see SCADA, automation, use of technology, which is making both these sides efficient. The other big theme which we are now seeing globally is climate change. And therefore, we are talking about this entire energy transition. It's such large themes or opportunities, they emerge maybe once in a century, like the pivotal shift which happened in the automobile sector when Ford came in and it became mainstream. So climate change today is just not something we talk about. In my opinion, it clearly is a existential crisis. And, we owe it to our future generations to really, do something, and each of us in our respective field, are trying to do in our own way to contribute. And therefore, from climate change emerges a whole new paradigm of this transition where we are talking about the whole mobility space, decarbonization as a theme, whether it is in mobility, whether it is in industrial clusters, whether it is in other home consumption. So, tremendous, I would say, runway for startups to really get into each of these areas. And probably we could, the kind of space this is there, we are talking about almost 800 million barrels of oil equivalent energy to get transitioned into this. This is not going to happen overnight, how much ever we like it to happen. So, it's going to take time. We want the transition to happen sooner. All throughout this conference, one of the major themes that I have been observing here at IEW is the shift to hydrogen. So like in mobility, we have EV coming in, and for Seros, our own example of LNG for heavy trucking. Likewise, for industrial decarbonization, I think the path forward is hydrogen, and I see a lot of interest and a lot of companies now coming into this space in the entire supply chain. It's not just the big producers, but even the smaller players, there's a lot of role to play. So, that's how I, Vinit, would like to largely look at it.
No, rightly covered. So, I appreciate your point of view. So, Sophia, from VC or PE standpoint, how do you see, what are the key drivers that are bringing that growth, and what kind of innovations which startups are pushing? You are seeing that that's a prospective area to work with startups.
I think so. If we were in a consumer conference or let's say a retail conference, the answer would always be, let's build another app. Yeah, let's build an app, and everyone will come, and we'll all make money, and consumers will be happy. We're in a very, very infrastructure-intensive sector. And so from a VC perspective, traditionally, the financial VCs traditionally like or prefer, let's say, easy business models, big accessible markets, very simple business models, and actually a very quick pathway to exit or profitability. This market, or the energy transition, is for VCs who are focused on the long game. There is no right answer. There is no right answer. You just mentioned hydrogen. It's great for certain sectors, doesn't work for other sectors. So being able to experiment, being able to be open, being able to, let's say, find patient capital, but also understanding that the money will flow to companies at different stages of their, let's say, their life. Early stage, and I love to see what's happening in India at the moment, where you have a lot of grants available. There's many startup challenges. There's many activities that are happening across the country to raise the awareness of some of the great tech and business models that are being built. But these are still early. Like I met Arun, and we were talking a while ago. I met Arun a couple of years ago. He came to me from Hyderabad, hope you don't mind. He came to me from Hyderabad with a suitcase. But I loved the technology that he was creating. But it takes time. It takes time to gestate. It takes time to scale. And so making sure, one, that you've got the right sort of startup, let's say, challenges, grants, awareness, competitions, to sort of raise the game of all startups so they're solving the right problems. But also having that freedom, that creativity, because there's no right answer, even in India or in any other part of the world. And so allowing that, let's say, a little bit of risk. We, in Asia, we are more risk averse than average. How do you encourage more and more risky cash coming in to help with some of the experimentation? But then once the VCs have done, then you need to find the infra-friendly PE, and you're seeing more and more of that piling in. When we invested in Blue Smart a couple of years ago, right after Tata came in with a MOU to Blue Smart to then help them get supply of electric vehicles. Same with Magenta. We invested with Magenta some months ago, and all of a sudden you're seeing that whole last mile logistics sector, especially the all-electric sector, which before didn't really have a champion. You're starting to see that sector open up. So it takes a little bit of money, a little bit of conviction, but actually then you'll see now more infra players coming in to help with the necessary scale up to be able to make this transition stick.
Thank you. No, I do agree. So at least in this space, not a short-term game for VC. They need to be on long-term itself. So Ashish, next question to you. So you have set up green logistic company for cargo movement. So setting up that first company of India, number of challenges you must have faced. So I'm coming to that. So what kind of challenges or barriers you or Arun, you are facing to take up as a startup, to take up those solutions in the market up to the scale?
Well, I would like to share my idea. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's my idea. There are few things that should be part and own and treasure of everybody, outside of countries, outside of boundaries, and so on. One is health, for sure, healthcare. And we saw with the COVID that we had to be together, synergy. Second, it's arts. I think that arts should have no boundary, no matter who you are, where you come from. Art belongs to everybody, so I'm very, very strong in that. And third is intelligence. I'm not talking about artificial intelligence yet, because I'm not so used yet to that. But intelligence is something that we should never waste. And right now we see that the intelligence is in the startup. Startups are like children, they are like babies. They are our treasure, they are our future. So we have to take care of them. And we need synergy. We need the startup feel that they can work in India, they can work in South America, they can work in Australia and in North America, or in, I have several requests now also for Africa. And that's the great symptoms of how startup is important. Because as I said before, they are not tied up with big industries. They are just agile. They are few people, and they are ready mentally to share their experience. That's what they want. More than money now, people working in startup, they want to share their experience. They want to feel important. They want to give something for this transition. And energy is really the field where startup can really grow up and give a lot. So what we need? We need, as NGV Italy, we are chairman of many of the ISO regulation and also of ECO in Geneva. So I know exactly the problem we always have with standards and homologation and so on. And that's something that it's really a part of the problem, not only of the startup, but everybody. If somebody wants to sell something in India or the opposite, you have to go through new homologation, new standards, and so on. Although maybe the component and the technology is the same, but just you need to have different, ECO is not okay, then you have to have Indian, or you have to have UL, and so on. So that means synergy. Startups mean synergy. Startup means that governments and stakeholders and companies understand how precious they are and try to help with the regulatory issues and especially with investment. This is something that we have to keep in mind. We should never forget that the future is for startup. A big company has to have different fields of research and so on. And it's difficult that they have the best in each field. But if they get in touch with a startup, they really can get the best on what they want. So we need to talk to governments especially, and that's one of the duty I have when I go around the world. I try to talk to government and say that we need synergy. We should not look at Europe, India, America, Australia, and that's very bad, especially when we talk about transition. We are talking about something extremely important. And I'm very proud that with the G20, Italy signed an understanding for the transition and for synergy. We are working. I'm working with my government, and that makes me very happy, because maybe we have done a little step for what we need: synergy. Synergy with the government, help from the government, and understanding from the investor. So I hope that in the future we have startups that don't look, they speak all kinds of languages, because right now with translator is very easy, but they don't look if they are in Italy, if they are in India or somewhere else. They have their intelligence and their expertise to be shared to people who need it, and we all need them. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Maria. I can't agree more with you. And I really like this quote: the startups are our baby, or like a future. So we need to take care of them till the time they start running on their own. Yeah. So sorry, Ashish, over to you. So you were supposed to answer.
Before I come to your question, but very well said, Mariarosa. Actually, I was just chatting with her before we came in, and I must say she's just not talking. She's actually walking the talk. And I must share with you, she's mentoring a lot of startups in India. We had chance of meeting one of them. So I think, that's what she means, that, they have no barriers. So, we all got to collaborate together and see that, this whole ecosystem starts to pick up. Coming back to, Vinit, your point on Seros incubating, India's, first and only green logistics company. So it's a very interesting anecdote, friends. And, I just want to quickly take a couple of minutes to share this story with you. Hopefully it can be of some inspiration to some of the youngsters here. So Seros had been into, the traditional logistics powered by diesel. And, for some time we felt that we were just one amongst so many such companies. And what is it that we are doing different? There was no fun. Literally, that's how it started. And then, we said that if we have to do something different, what is it that it should be? And so we started looking for what is the problem we can solve, and we very quickly zeroed down. Didn't take much time to understand that transportation sector was contributing to almost 15 to 20% of the greenhouse gas emissions. And so therefore, bingo, we were in this sector and we're part of the problem. And so what do we do to solve this problem, right? And started looking more into it. And, Tesla was hot, has been hot. And so we said, if Tesla can do something to the passenger cars in the EV segment, why not a Tesla for trucks, right? Like, why can't there be an EV in heavy-duty trucking? And that's how we started approaching, because we were doing heavy-duty trucking. And the more we dived into it, we quickly learned that, look, it's not as easy as it seems. And you need a lot of things. To start with, you need the truck, the EV truck, which in India was non-existent. I'm talking about now 3.5 years ago, 4 years ago. Secondly, there was no charging infrastructure. And thirdly, the TCO, the total cost of ownership, was far, far higher compared to the traditional. And so it did not deter us, right? So we said, look, if there is a problem, you got to solve it. So we started looking beyond it, and something which Italy has experienced is transition to gas-based vehicles. And so already there were gas passenger cars in India. We again came to the drawing board and we said, okay, let it be CNG for trucks as well. Only problem, there were no OEM CNG trucks available. So you go back to the drawing board and you say, what can we do? So we tried with retrofitment, and there were challenges around that, regulatory challenges. There were safety issues around that. But we said, let's experiment, and we went ahead with that. We did a couple of retrofitments. The next challenge we came across was the fuel availability, the fuel distribution infrastructure for that. And what we found out is the existing infrastructure is not geared up to serve the heavy vehicles, right? And, you are thrown with so many challenges after challenges. And I think that is what drives the startups. So you have that sense of challenge where you want to solve a problem, move ahead. And at Seros, we just kept doing that and looking for solutions. And that's where then we understood that, look, whether it is EV or whether it is CNG, range is going to be a problem. And heavy duty trucking normally is long haul. It's beyond 300, 500 kilometers in India, geographically spread out country. And so, therefore, this was not where we would find our answer, right? Till the battery technology would evolve for the range, or more robust charging infrastructure along the highways would come up. So therefore, would we just sit, accept that there's no solution, or try? So we kept looking, and then we came to the solution of LNG powered trucking. LNG looked very interesting. We found some interesting examples in China and in Europe where this adoption was taking place. Again, hit with a ton of challenges here. There's no fuel dispensing network for LNG. There's no OEM availability. And when we went to the OEMs, they would say, you commit to us the order for first 500,000 trucks. We will start manufacturing. We would say, okay, but where will we get the fuel from? So it was perpetually the chicken and egg situation. What will come first, whether the fuel dispensing infrastructure or whether the OEMs would step up, or whether the government would, step in. And so it was kind of very interesting. It took us almost 2 years to get this ecosystem going, working with the regulators, working with the OEM manufacturers, working with the, fuel, working with investors, trying to, because on the face of it, this is a, beautiful opportunity. And there's every reason it should work. But it's only the pieces of this puzzle need to come together. Everybody is waiting for the other guy to act. I think we did a lot of groundwork. We got it off to a start. It was challenging. But in the end, it is something we are proud of having created. And it's gaining momentum as we speak. And I know there will be a lot of developments as we go along. We've seen some developments in the EV space. Battery costs are coming down, charging infrastructure going up. And so, at some point of time, this switch will happen. And from our experience, we are ready to make this shift. Who knows, tomorrow it could be hydrogen. So, we can't sit and wait for the right thing to come. We have to keep moving, keep marching, and, you will find the right solution to this problem.
Thank you. So, Arun, what's your view? Sorry, I'm audible? What's your view around the challenges and barriers you faced when you started this startup?
I think what Ashish said was kind of resounds with us as well. It's, that sentence that you said, it's always like we want to have a challenge and then you want to overcome it. It's sort of exciting, and that's what kind of drives you. But yeah, I think as a hardware deep tech company based out of India, trying to build some new technology, swapping technology is something that we were building. We were also building powertrains for electric autos. There's a whole bunch of things that we were doing. We believe that a full stack solution where we kind of address, again, like sort of trying to solve the chicken or egg problem. We went to OEMs as well, and, we kind of faced the similar issues. Like we said, we'll take 100 vehicles, and they said, no, we need 1,000 vehicles a month or something, and then we'll start manufacturing for you. So nobody would kind of believe in our solution, and so we decided to do the whole thing ourselves. So we decided to have an auto rickshaw which could run on our swappable batteries, and then at the same time set up the swapping infrastructure required for these autos to swap. So we took up on us a lot of problems to kind of address the transition of auto rickshaws moving to electric. And it was very challenging, and I think a lot of people sort of, a lot of VCs kind of believed in what we are doing, but it felt like, yeah, what Sophia said, we've seen the apps, so we'll just believe in the apps. This is where we made the money. We're not sure what is going to happen in this particular area. So money was very tough to come in India, and I think, again, what Sophia said in the US, it's at least a little easier with having capital in your account. It's easier to build products. It's easier to experiment with things. You can build way more prototypes. You can, destroy those prototypes till the end to understand what's going wrong. But that sort of luxury we didn't have, and we had to really innovate on how do we build these products in a very capitally efficient way. And I think that's kind of like the DNA of us and a lot of startups here in India is just they know how to build these things in a very efficient way. And I think that's also helped us sort of like put us, we managed to build technology on par with some of the global players as a result of that. So there were challenges. We're still addressing a lot of these challenges. We're still very early. Like we only have a few hundred vehicles that we've sort of deployed in the city. We are expanding into other territories. We're expanding into other countries. Every step of the way is a challenge. And I think, we're working towards it. But I think just to kind of a bigger picture, to sum it up, I think capital and hard tech, hardware, deep tech as you call it, is one of the trickiest businesses to start up from India. That would probably be the bottom line. Yeah.
Thanks, Arun. Thanks. So I think you are complementing the statement what Sophia told.
Said,
It's
yeah,
not a mobile app investment kind of thing. So it's a longer gestation period is required. So Sophia, my next question to you, it has been seen that startups are being considered as a compete to the large companies. But what's your view how startups can work together with large companies to accelerate their journey? And if you have seen some successful example in past, so what are your views?
Okay, so quickly, I know time is of an essence. Yep. So for us, so BP has 70,000 people in the company. So one of the benefits of working with a corporate like BP is that you're probably going to find an expert or technical expert to help answer a question which has been troubling you. And you can get it for free. Generally, when you work with us on a pilot or a POC, or if you have a commercial agreement in place alongside investment or whatever it takes. I mean, corporations can help with let's say, short-circuiting some of the questions and challenges, especially in a hard deep tech area, which, of course, there's a lot of experience. So I'll give an example. So we invested in a company, in a geothermal company, a Canadian geothermal company. And we put money into this company, and now this company is now scaling up in Germany. It's just drilled 4.5 kilometers below the surface of the Earth, and it's created this closed loop. Think of it like a big radiator under the surface of the Earth, and that's now going to power. That's now going to power at least 20,000 homes around the Munich area. Now, the fact that BP has drilling expertise helps immensely this young company understand how to avoid some of the issues as they create what is a renewable energy source, which is very different. So working with corporations, and I'm talking, ONGC, there's some great test lab stuff outside there. I mean, BPC, there are lots of companies who have done some aspects of the energy transition from a technical commercialization area. And that's why I think for startups, especially working in the energy sector, it's important to find corporations. And don't be worried. Don't be worried right now about whether they will compete with you or not. It's at the end of the day, right now it's about collaboration. It's about lifting the technical capability, which we know is in India, and to really then create something which is fit for India, and then export it. Yeah, because I was in Bangkok a few months ago, and I took some investors, took some advisors, and took some of my startups to Bangkok, and they were asking 100 questions a minute. What was happening in India? Because everybody wanted to learn. Everybody wanted to learn what was happening in India. How can we learn too? So don't think for a second that what we're creating here, it's just for India. It's for the world. But it just requires a bit of collaboration, a bit of really strong thinking. How do we get there?
Thanks. I would like to connect you to know more about the geothermal company.
Just to add to what Sophia said, I think she summed it up very well. of how the startup ecosystem can work closely with large corporations. And we have had our own experience of working with Shell. So what we found was that, they bring in tremendous depth of expertise of the subject. And maybe because of they being a large corporation, sometimes the decision making, etc., takes time taking. And that's where the agility of the startup companies teamed together with the experience and the resources at disposal with the large corporation. When these two come together, I can tell you it creates magic.
Thanks. Thanks, Ashish. So we have left only last 5 minutes. So my question, and we need to quick answer that. So Maria, question to you. What kind of government policies and regulations can support startup to ramp up their journey?
Well, just like I said, the government policy means no bureaucracy and investment, and of course taking care of startups like their future, their baby. What I wanted to know, because that's very important, we have to remind that startups starts usually with all very young people, and we have the example of Bill Gates and of Steve Jobs, but also I think Einstein was a startup, because at the beginning his intelligence was just for him, it was a startup. So I think that startup, that means equal to intelligence, technology, innovation, comes from people who are looking to improve themselves or to give something that they think is going to be extremely important. And normally they come or from very young people or from country and people who are not that wealthy. If you look at normally startup, they come from the scratches, and students or people who I say don't belong to the upper status. I have nothing. There are extremely intelligent person at each level. But when you need something, your intelligence is working more, is working faster. You are looking for something new. And that's where all the startups come normally. So I think it's the example of Italy. Italy is not a rich country, We have to start from nothing. Take for the biomethane, biogas. We have more than 100 plants, small plants. But the farmers started because they thought, that would be their future. So right now they are doing well, very well. We can teach around the world how to start biogas, biomethane plants. We have a startup of hydrogen, first in Europe. And I think maybe in the world that they created a type of plant, a small plant that is working with their green hydrogen that they produce. So that's what the government has to understand, that they have to improve, they have to help, and they have to think that startup of the future.
Thank you. Ashish, over to you,
Yeah,
your final remarks.
I will summarize it very quickly. Government, I see, has a very, very important role to play. And again, there are two ways. One is the carrot approach and one is the stick approach. So we've seen very successful examples in India of the carrot approach, like the FAME scheme, FAME 1, FAME 2, faster adoption and manufacturing of electric vehicles. It has worked well. We have seen PLI scheme in manufacturing work well. There are some stick approaches on the, which basically, like the carbon tax for accelerating decarbonization and likewise. So I think government and policy has a very important role to play towards this transition and towards creating the enabling environment for the startups. And I think Arun can really...
Arun is still eagerly waiting for his turn.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll take just 2 minutes as well. I think to kind of broadly put it rather, I think government is, as we discussed, like sort of listening on this and understanding what the requirements are to introduce new policies. But I think a similar example with, LNG and with battery swapping, both the things are kind of new technologies in their own sense, haven't been introduced in India back in, whenever they were introduced. So whatever sort of policies and subsidies that they're giving, if they've introduced to a certain particular sector, so let's say for mobility, they've introduced FAME subsidy for charging, but the same subsidy doesn't exist for swapping. The whole idea of swapping is to provide a cheaper solution for the driver because you're not purchasing the batteries up front. So the moment you remove the subsidy, or let's say you give this subsidy to only fixed battery charging vehicles, those are now priced the same price as swappable batteries, which kind of doesn't make sense because, here we are trying to kind of make the market work without any subsidy, and that doesn't happen. And then, sort of the whole way how the dispersal of this money happens is kind of also very different between swappable batteries and fixed batteries as well. So quickly, I see you running out of time. They are very keen, they're very helpful on this, but I would say just like doing these things quickly, introducing all these subsidies quickly to newer technologies is something that we are looking forward for.
Thank you, Arun.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
To summarize, it's very short. So I think we are running out of the time. So we are concluding this session with all these fantastic comments from all of us. So I think, Arun, your point must be hearing. There are a lot of policymakers sitting in this room, and your voice would echo there also. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.